is Shannon McShane. I'm a goldsmith and jewellery designer maker based in Dundonald, County Down in the north of Ireland. My practice is centred around making artworks which usually go on exhibition, commissions for clients and small production ranges of jewellery. My inspiration is drawn from the coast surrounding Ireland. I grew up in a large coastal town at the mouth of Belfast Lough. Along this part of the coast there's a hive of seafaring activity which largely influences my work. Within my practice, I explore the notion of preciousness through the combination of precious materials and the ritual of collecting abandoned objects from along the shore. For the Collectibles and Curiosities exhibition, I created a small body of work called Moyen. It is an Irish word meaning belong. It used to be that if a person brought an object of value floating on the sea, 9 waves or more out from land, they had the right to it. If it was less than the 9 waves out, the owner's permission was necessary to keep it. The body of work that I have created is made up of found objects from the sea fabricated into earrings, brooches, necklaces and a ring. They are objects that I have collected over time. They are curiosities as to what they once were, where they came from, how they ended up in the sea, tossed amongst the waves to land ashore. I'm inspired by the Irish language with its many words for the different types of waves, especially the legend of the 3 waves of Erin, Ton Clina, Ton Tua, Ton Ruri. I want these pieces to provoke conversations of the ocean, her vast beauty, but also the need to do more to protect her. These pieces of man-made objects should not have ended up in the ocean. They are only a very small fraction of what lies beneath the surface and along our shores. Following the mention of the 3 waves of Erin, I made 3 pieces for each of her waves. Ton Clina comes out of cork, so the piece I've made is a brooch. The large piece of found plastic that I have decided to use is almost like a wave in itself. It's a type of like a brush, maybe from a shipping vessel for cleaning, possibly even maybe from an industrial car wash or something like that. It's blue and the ends have lightened to almost like a very pale blue, almost white, like the frothing of the waves. I have hidden amongst these bristles sterling silver pins that have beautiful little aquamarine set at the top as little curiosities, showing a contrast of this plastic and its devaluation and the value of these aquamarines, and aquamarine being also a stone associated with the sea. I decided to create it as a brooch as I saw it almost like a piece of armour, more to be seen as worn on the shoulder. Definitely a talking point with how large it is. It's very unavoidable. I was very curious about it. I decided to keep the seaweed and the little bits of sheep's wool still in place, as I just thought they really added to the journey of the piece as it's gone through the ocean and landed upon the shore in which I found it. Ton Tua is a necklace. It is the wave that comes out of Derry. I found this piece of rusted, almost like a barbed wire type looking mesh of metal coming from Derry, and from what people know of Derry, it's a fierce place. So I thought this is quite an interesting piece to use for Ton Tua. I then decided to sort of recreate with a bit of silver to kind of contrast the discardedness of the steel by using a precious metal. I did my rippling texture to the silver and layered it up in the same manner of which the steel has been. It comes round almost like a choker. Ton Ruri actually comes out of County Down, which is where I'm from. So I decided whenever I was putting this one together, the large black pieces, I love black. So I just thought, because I'm from the county, it would be very just to do that way. So it's very much more a reflection of myself. I use silver to create almost like a seaweed type of effect of the bladderwhack type inspired, the one that has the little polyps, and it's been oxidized, and then I have set black spinels as just a contrast to the found plastic, giving this sense of value. Now that I've added the silver, do we value it more, or is it still an object that can be discarded? To complement the 3 waves, I then continue on to make some smaller pieces. I realised that I actually had quite a few objects of similar colours or similar colour palette, and I always really wanted to do that, and it kind of just shows you how much plastic there is, because I do actually have more in the studio, but these worked best together. So there's Kunuk, which is a pair of earrings. They're all made up of red toned and orange toned found little plastics that have been riveted together or set into silver. and then put together with like a chain. Cunnick, this type of wave, is a dangerous turning whirlpool between two strong currents. I thought it was very interesting to use the Irish language because for one word, we in English would say a couple of sentences to describe it. Within Irish, because it's so old, there's certain words that just describe certain things very simply. It can be quite romantic and quite funny in some of the descriptions once you translate them. But it's amazing to just try and keep our language alive by using these words. Then there's another piece called Stronach. It is a large brooch, mainly green tones. Stronach is the whistling or murmuring of the sea in a cove when the water rushes in and then is pulled out again. A stronach is made of green piece of pipe and then a green patented piece of metal. They've been riveted together, and then little details of small, almost wave-like silver comes over to set the piece to make it into a brooch, and then there's an attachment to also make it into a lovely long necklace. Bristica is a pair of blue earrings. It means a big, foamy, strong waves that send the sea white with the racing waves. Bristica is made of two earrings. One is quite a tealish kind of blue with a line of silver with some topaz stones set, and then another small rectangular piece of blue plastic with a wave that I carved in wax and then cast. These earrings are studs. Tuntule is a ring. Tuntule is a tidal wave or huge wave. It is a yellow piece of plastic. I believe it's from like a sweet pop. It's a very tiny little size, so probably about a size J roughly. So it'd be for quite a fine-handed person, most likely on their wedding finger. I hand carved the wave on top, quite a large wave, in wax and then cast it in sterling silver, grinding in for a little bit extra detail and then setting on top of the yellow ring, the plastic. Suitu is a smaller green brooch. It means the sucking out sound of the shoreline at night, often heard in springtime when the large waves pull the pebbles from the shore, then roll them back in. That sounds lovely. It is a long rectangular light green piece of plastic. It's got all these really unusual markings on it, maybe from a toy. And then a little small piece, I think it's a plastic. The material's become so hard it may have been a rubber. It's a deeper green with a little pattern on it, and they're overlapping each other. It can be worn as a lovely brooch. And it's all set in sterling silver and little detailing to almost look like the waves coming over again. Then we have Tofel, a brooch. It means the calmness between two changes of falling or ebbing tide. Unsteady water that currents meet and one about to change direction. This is a little brooch that is a yellow, kind of more like an ochre shade. It's definitely from a toy and it actually moves. The original piece of metal, I assume, because it was quite rusted whenever I was drilling it out, has disintegrated. So I've replaced that with pieces of silver. I then carved another wave, which is set in the front, and then I attached sterling silver fittings with a steel brooch pin. And then I decided to do an oxidized silver circle, which I've put through one of the little holes from the toy, well, the piece I assume is a toy, kind of to show the cycle of the ocean and that everything moves around. Like these pieces can be from anywhere in the ocean, as they've been dropped in, they can move, from one side of the Atlantic to the other, to then up in the Irish Sea, things like that. So I wanted to show that, and I felt that it really complemented this brooch in particular. Really enjoyed making all of the pieces for Collectibles and Curiosities. I really enjoyed looking into the Irish language more, as I actually have been learning it myself, and really wanted to celebrate it and share all these beautiful words and all the meanings behind them and how descriptive it is. It's just fascinating. I also really hope that everyone finds the objects as curious as I did and want to collect them like I did as well. I have always seen jewellery as being a way of body adornment, conversational pieces, if you will. So a person's wearing it, somebody stops them, asks them what it's about. It could even be something more conspicuous like a wedding ring or a much more everyday piece, but also like these more unusual artworks. They provoke conversations between people, creating connections, storytelling, and also, especially of these, conservation of the ocean as well. There are definitely more pieces in the pipeline as I have more pieces in the studio, which I find quite fascinating and have already begun designing some. I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, I'll find more along the beach. As much as I find it interesting and like picking up treasure, it's also quite disheartening to find so much. So hopefully as I go, I myself can help reduce how much pollution is there, but hopefully by seeing these pieces you will as well, and also maybe make them into other pieces or have them recycled, just as long as we keep them out of our beautiful oceans.